Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike the Cranky Fan. What is going on, Cranky?
Grump, look at these eyes. Look at this face. This is someone who's been working like 80 hours a week. Unfortunately, the man is making me do work. So, I know you're putting in these hours just doing draft coverage, but I have to work, and it really sucks because I was down in Florida this weekend for the home opener for the Rays, and I was basically on the phone for 5 innings. And with these games, with this pitch count, I missed like the whole game. I was on an hour call. So you may hear some delirium from me. It's just lack of sleep, but this is draft season when none of us sleep.
Do I log that as an official complaint against the pitch clock, or no?
No, well,
Okay.
in this case, it was kind of a negative. I love the pitch clock. I think,
Okay.
it's one of those things when you're at the game, you don't even notice it, but when you realize that 2 hours and 20 minutes, it's over. It's great. I mean, it's as long as basketball game, it's shorter than the football game. It's longer than a soccer game. It's great. I'm all for it. But in this particular instance where I wanted to see more game, I got hosed. But that's the way it goes.
Life sucks. I take offense to you suggesting that I am also not working while doing draft stuff.
I know. But I think you're working somewhat of a human schedule for work. And
I am. Yes, that's true.
And I'm getting crushed. But,
I screwed up.
ooh, that's not good.
I screwed up bad. So I do have a job. It is a 9 to 5 essentially. So I work 40 hours a week. Plus I pretty much cram in from like January to the end of April. I cram in pretty much every waking hour with draft work. And a lot of that stuff is like back end, like production stuff. I don't need to do like making clip cut ups and shit like that. But
Right.
it's always fun. But in order to maintain a schedule like that, I intake a lot of coffee. I love coffee. I've always liked coffee since I was in high school. But for like the last 15 years, I've used K-Cups, right?
Hmm.
Okay. I have a very large coffee mug. So what I would do is I would just keep running the K-Cup until it was full, but I'm only using the one K-Cup because they're expensive, right? I finally ditched the K-Cup thing at home and I got a drip coffee machine again, which I haven't had in like 16 years. But
Very
what I
nice.
failed to realize is when you actually brew coffee, that is that mug that I'm like they used to rerun like hot water through an old K-Cup is now all new caffeine. So not the Saturday that just passed, but the one before it, I had to call my mom at 10:30 at night because I had a resting heart rate of 120 beats per minute, which is really bad.
That's nothing, man.
No, that's pretty
When I
bad.
have you all know my heart situations, and when I go crazy with my AFib, sometimes I'm at 160 or something. So
Right, that's actual AFib. The thing is, I was sitting on the floor. I was not doing anything,
yeah,
and it was 10:30 at night too. I had not truly calculated my caffeine intake, which I then did. It was almost 1,500 milligrams of caffeine that day.
in English, what does that mean? How many
That's
cups?
1,000 is way too much. So I screwed up big. So I am cutting back on my caffeine this week and last week. This is my second week cutting back on it a lot, and I'm feeling it in my face, like in my cheeks, that it's just like sagging down. So whatever. That's kind of neither here nor there.
So if this podcast sounds like it's if you normally
half
listen to
speed.
this
Speed it
podcast
up.
at half speed, that's real life. There's nothing wrong with your phones. We're a little
Groggy.
sluggish.
This is very, very much the first week of April for me. Got to watch a great Devils Rangers game. I know probably more than half of the listeners are pissed off about that, and then a small minority, including myself, are pretty happy. And you are just kind of the Lightning just clinched right over the weekend.
Heck of a weekend. Knicks clinched a playoff spot. Lightning clinched a playoff spot. Rays are 4-0. Tottenham fired their coach. NYCFC stink, but it's pretty weird. This is like, you guys follow me on Twitter. You know that I have non-New York teams that I like also, and I think this is the first time in my life that at this moment, my football, baseball, basketball, and hockey teams are either in the playoffs or in a season where they were in the playoffs. So all four. I never thought in my life the worst team of all the teams I follow would be Florida football. They're the one
Oh,
lagger that's bringing everything down, and that's painful to me. But right now, you're going to start seeing a lot more once I ever get done with work. A little obnoxiousness on Twitter for me, as the Knicks and the Lightning make their playoff runs and the Rays, start ramping up. And there you go.
yeah.
But we're all Giant fans here. We're all brothers in that. So let's move past our partisan arguments with other sports and let's focus on the Giants.
Yeah, the shit talking is only within the first 5 minutes of every show, and we're at 5:34. So that brings us back to football, and in which case we are all Giants fans here.
Yes.
We did get some news today.
News.
Very early this morning, it was reported that Deion Jones, linebacker from LSU, drafted by Atlanta, traded, I believe, to Cleveland.
I believe so. Yes.
Is in for a visit Tuesday. So when you're listening to this, it's probably already happening. He is landing in New Jersey tonight, so he probably already landed because it's like 10:30 here. That's huge. Give me your initial thoughts. I mean, you saw him at LSU. What was that, like 2015, 2016? That was a while ago.
Back when they had really sick defenses. What is his cap situation? I mean, it seems like we're kind of near the end of how much we can spend.
Well, I mean, not much. So you think about what he was doing. So he signed his original 4-year deal. He played under Dan Quinn for most of that time. Dan Quinn pieced for Dallas. Oh, I guess he got fired. Sorry. Dan Quinn got fired.
Right.
Ended up in Dallas as defensive coordinator, and his production fell off as part of it. He was, I forget the name of the, Pease? Was that his name? The defensive coordinator that Arthur Smith hired? He was awful.
Yeah.
That team is awful. His production ended up dipping. He got traded to Cleveland, and he got hurt immediately. But when he got traded to Cleveland, the cap number with Cleveland was like $1.5 million. It was like nothing. And right now, after 2 years, 1 year of dipped production, 1 year of injury, I think he's in line for what you would consider a 1-year prove-it deal, which is going to be something close to what he just got last year, which is 1 year 1.5, 1 year 2. We can afford that. I mean,
Sure.
Right now, I don't think they can. They're probably right up against the wall, but they can massage the cap and make it work.
We have a couple deals still to work out where there may be some more room. The Dexter Lawrence deal I think is imminent, possibly, so that might free up some more space.
Dexter Lawrence, yeah. I mean, for a long time, the Leonard Williams contract could be restructured. We've been hearing that for a really long time. I know Leonard Williams himself was asked about that, I think, by Dan Duggan, and he gave a fairly committal. I don't want to say committal. A fairly, I guess, like he was open to the idea. Yeah, he was receptive at first, and then when they asked him specifics, he sort of walked back a little bit. So I think my thinking is, forget the money. I think just in general, Leonard Williams is happy playing for this team and in this area. I don't get the sense that he is itching to leave, but I mean, like, money is an object to him. Does that sound right to you? The way you read that?
That sounds fair. I think unless you are a real superstar, I think you get that opportunity for one big contract. You got that one big contract. Now I think it's just kind of once you have that financial security, even if you don't play out the entire term of that contract, you're in that financial security where you can start making decisions based on what you want to do other than what you have to do. And I think if he likes being on this team, like he's been playing in New York or New Jersey his entire career, I think both parties will work something out to make sure he's taken care of, but also give the flexibility to this team what they still need to keep building.
So Deion Jones himself, I'm not going to pretend like I paid a ton of attention to the Atlanta Falcons. He was badass his first couple of years. I mean, I'll never forget that. He also, at least at the NFL level, and you could probably speak to more what happened with him in college, even if you remember, that's quite a while back. But
yeah, we're going back to trying to think of how far back that was. Yeah, I mean, I can say just those LSU teams as a whole in the mid 2010s, solid defense, solid back sevens, great. He's had great secondaries, great linebackers. So interchangeable of who these guys were, but if he was part of that, it was solid.
Yeah, I think also through those days, like the LSU defenses were so good that like all the edge rushers that were there were always getting like big first round hype. Like remember Arden Key?
Sure.
Never saw it with that guy, and
Mhm.
I don't know how long he lasted in the NFL. If he's still there, I haven't heard his name.
It, is he one of those guys where, when you're playing against him, it's kind of like, watch out for this guy, and it's like, yeah, but it's not doesn't didn't change games or wasn't like super super hyped like on a he wasn't super hyped as a player in college, was more of a draft guy. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but it didn't make sense. I was like watching his
Yeah.
film. I was like, this guy kind of sucks. Like I don't get it. But Deion Jones, I mean, at least at the NFL level, I have never seen a more ball hawking, but strictly not. I don't want to say strictly because he is good in coverage, but just very opportunistic with his interceptions. Man, I don't think I've ever seen a linebacker get so many tip drill picks and return them for touchdowns in like
Yeah.
2 years. He must have had like four. Yeah, and I would say if you look at the defense that Wink put on the field last year, they generated some decent pressure, albeit some of it schematically drawn up and not straight up talent. But the one thing that was definitely missing was ball hawking, right? I mean, it's just not a
Yeah.
whole lot of turnovers. I think having him in there, and something about being a ball hawk is just, I think at a certain point, it's just about knowing, or I guess like having a natural feel of where the play is going and just being around the ball, good things happen.
I was gonna say it's just a product of being a smart player, someone who lots of film study, lots of review, lots of knowledge of the league, lots of knowledge of not only quarterbacks but knowledge of coordinators and what their tendencies are, and just when I always hear the term ball hawk, it's not to me. It's just, well, they have such great instincts to the ball. It's they know what they're doing and they know what's happening before it happens. And
Yeah,
this
ball
team could
hawking.
use smart,
Go
more and
ahead.
more smart people like that.
Sure, especially I would say that was probably Julian Love's best attribute was his intelligence, being in the right place at the right time, and they just lost him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. I think ball hawking has a lot to do with hand-eye coordination, but mostly it's what's going on between the ears.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited about that. I think that would be a huge addition to the defensive roster. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think expectations will probably stay a little bit low because he hasn't.
Well, I think we're buying more and more.
Like
Not lottery tickets.
reclamation. No, they're like
Yeah,
reclamation projects.
yeah, we're not buying lottery tickets to win $1 million. We're buying like the win three. It only costs $1, but maybe you win a couple $100. You're not going to win, $10 million, but maybe the number will come up and it'll be a nice little payoff, a nice return on investment. As you're building this defense for sustained success, and as you're drafting longer term pieces for it. Does that analogy make any sense, or is that just a stupid one?
No, no, it made sense.
Yeah.
I think you're right there. Otherwise, not a whole lot of news on the Giants front this past week. So we're gonna kind of flip over to the offensive line talk. But before we like get to the O line itself, so let's take a look at the starting roster right now. Okay,
Shall we?
left tackle Andrew Thomas. We feel super comfortable there. I think our biggest problem, right, is if he gets hurt, what happens, right?
I could say it's the same problem with a lot of teams. So yeah, but
correct.
we're starting with a franchise cornerstone left tackle, and not a whole lot of teams can say they have that, both for his productivity, his age, and all of that. So we're in a really good spot with him.
Yeah. On the right side, obviously Evan Neal, his second year in the league, so they're expecting some growth there. Top 10 pick, so he's not
Yeah.
going anywhere.
Not only that, I think people that were freaking out about him last year, I think just need to have a little bit of patience. I don't want to make the direct correlation to, well, Andrew Thomas is just anybody who comes into this league. I know if you played Alabama or you play an SEC school, or maybe you play at a Big Ten school, the jump from top tier college to the NFL is a massive jump in size of speed, size, knowledge, all of these things. And these guys, no matter how highly they're rated, how high they're drafted, what the expectation is, there's a learning curve and they are going to struggle. And I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed in Evan Neal or concerned going forward. Not me. I mean, these guys got to play. And from a season where not much was expected before the season happened, he got, the school of hard knocks. He played, he struggled, he learned. Finally an off season where he can get back in the gym. They can mold his body more, increase conditioning, not running around like a green rookie this year, going through OTAs and training camp. I definitely see that jump from the second year to someone that's swimming in it at times to who's really finally getting it. Because we all thought before the draft, like, that's the guy everyone wanted. We didn't think it'd be obtainable, and it worked out. So I'm not soured on him at all. That to me is a rookie learning his way in the NFL.
Same, and remember, he's not going to have to learn a whole NFL playbook this year either. I mean, that is a lot of players talk about. I mean, coming from Alabama, maybe him a little bit less, but a lot of players talk about that as being one of the hugest jumps is just the size and the
Sure.
I guess voluminous nature of a NFL playbook.
If you're a rookie, like your first training camp, you're worrying about where do I get my jock strap? Where do I where do I get lunch? What's expected in this
I need
drill.
an apartment.
Yeah, who's this cat who's like in the locker next to me? I'm learning all these things. That's year two. You're getting your jock strap. You're getting lunch. The guy next to you. What's expected of you in drills, and just that comfort level. And not everybody. Think of your first week on the job. You don't know what the hell's doing. How do I log into Teams? How do I do this? The next week you're like, old hat. So let's.
So when you look at the Giants tackles, you feel comfortable for the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now we're going to take a look at guards, and I'm only going to talk about 4 of them. I know that there's like some depth, whatever, but...
Right. Let's talk about the ones that matter.
So Josh Azudu, drafted last year. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about 5 guys. Josh Azudu, drafted last year, extremely versatile. I want to call him a left guard, but I disagree with the idea that he should be learning like 4 positions on the line, especially already. If you want to teach him left guard, right guard, fine. But, whatever. Rookie, he's also kind of raw. But high investment. Was he a 3rd-round pick last year?
I believe it's a 3rd-round pick, yes.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere. And I feel pretty good about him, honestly. Last year's big free agent signing was Mark Lewinsky at right guard. I don't even... Super disappointing. I think like early in the year, I want to say like week 2 or week 3, I was like, he's the one guy on the line that can't screw up because we paid for him and blah, blah. And
screwed up.
I should have just not even said that because it was like every game. He was like one of the worst guys on the line. But also, veteran depth, I'm sure he helps out a lot in the locker room, stuff like that. But as far as like a starter on this team, that is a need upgrade position, right?
Significant, yes.
Ben Bredesen was a guy that was obtained 2 years ago, and he was not very good that first year here. And last year, after a shoddy couple of games, maybe 3 games, he turned on, and he did not look bad. He got hurt and left and came back at the end of the year, and I thought he was playing pretty well, but still not anything to, I don't know. That one's not going to go in the Book of Giants Facts, the 2022 year of Ben Bredesen.
Yeah, I think he's like a placeholder until we get something better, but it's not the end of the world with him.
And last year's, I want to say 6th-round pick, Marcus McKeithen, maybe 5th-round pick. I'm not. No, I think it was 6th-round pick.
5th-round pick.
Fuck. Marcus McKeithen, UNC, right guard, big mammoth guy with some slow feet, kind of. Whatever. Tore his ACL at FanFest on the MetLife turf. So he had first year.
Rest in peace, old MetLife turf, by the way.
Yes. As somebody who is not a turf expert, I'm not going to do a whole thing on the turf, but they are switching out the turf for a different kind that allegedly causes less injuries because there's, I don't know, not openings that can catch cleats or something like that. And I don't know. But, hey, I'm willing to hope for the best there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, at least it will silence some people who just want to blame the turf for all the ills
for
in the
every
world
injury that happened on every field.
Too.
Yeah,
exactly.
People got hurt on the Quest Diagnostic field, inside the Quest Diagnostic thing on other stadiums. I mean, they just want to lump
Oh,
all
I
those
see.
injuries
I
to the
see.
MetLife turf, but whatever.
Yeah, I see stocks were down 10 points today. That must be caused due to the turf,
Yeah.
all these different things.
There was an explosion in St. Petersburg, Russia today. I
Oh, it's got to be the
That's
turf.
turf related.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
that damn, yeah. Cheap
No, I
Bears.
mean, you know what? I look, whatever. Allegedly, soccer stadiums use better turf. They care more about their players. If football teams
Soccer,
start
they
doing that,
use
that's good.
soccer uses grass. Like the World Cup, they're gonna when the World Cup is gonna be here, and if the Meadowlands is used for a semifinal game or a final game or whatever, they are gonna have to put grass in because they're like, fuck that. We play on grass. So I mean, we have. If they want to put another turf in, I understand why they do it. They try to save costs, but something, we have two NFL teams that play here who have a lot of money. We have, if this continues to be a problem or a perceived problem, just suck it up and put grass in this place.
Um, you'll notice that of all five guys I talked about in the middle, none of them are really centers. Joe
No,
Schoen had said that he was, for whatever reason, comfortable with Ben Bredesen being center or taking snaps or whatever. I'm not.
that might have been coach speak. That might have been, he's on the roster now. He's all we have. What am I going to say? I'm not comfortable with him. I think that part of that might be to give a show of confidence. That's for an audience of one, but deep in the bowels of the Giants headquarters.
1925 Giants
Yeah,
away or whatever it is.
they're probably soiling themselves, thinking that A, he's the starter, and B, looking at the depth behind him. So.
Yeah, I thought it was. I understand that John Feliciano is probably. I don't know. I think he wanted his one shot at center here to show the league that he was a functional, capable center, which he was.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't great, but he certainly was not a super embarrassment. He wasn't the worst guy on the line.
That's the
And
problem.
I think he wanted to parlay that into another deal elsewhere. But what's weird is he wound up with like another cheap 1-year deal, but with a better team, right? San Francisco.
Well, I mean, that's the downside of these prove-it deals. It's like, oh, great, we get these guys cheap on a prove-it deal. Well, if in their mind they proved it, and some other team believes they proved it as well, they could be gone. So
yeah, but you know what?
The way it goes.
What sucks about it is that he's not here to take over day one. Regardless, whether he stayed or not, they were gonna, in my opinion, they're gonna draft a center anyway. They need a center. I think they think it's important. I certainly think it's important getting a center to anchor the line for the future. When you build through the draft, you're building your roster for the foreseeable future.
That's exactly right. And he probably read the tea leaves, and they probably, again, we said this last week. We don't know the conversations that goes on. We just know the end results. A conversation might have been that, hey, we are looking to upgrade this position. We are looking to draft someone with the expectation to play, and factor that into your decision where you want to go.
Well, yeah. So like so what I was gonna say is that, like, it sucks that he's not here to start the first couple games while whoever's drafted gets up to speed, or maybe he needs to come in there because he's in over his head or whatever. But ultimately, it's such a minor. I know people are freaking out. In my opinion, it's kind of a minor problem. My biggest issue with this is that it is so obvious. They've done such a good job of like making little moves here and there to make no particular spot like a must draft thing. And I mean, there's no hiding this one.
Well, my fear is, what if Ben Bredesen goes out tomorrow to Starbucks and he trips on on a crack in the sidewalk and he blows out his knee? Then what?
I mean, again, that sucks, and I want him here. In fact, I would argue that you should have Azudu starting at left guard and Bredesen starting at right guard and Glowinski on the bench. But again, as far as the center position goes, I don't want Ben Bredesen snapping the ball. Period. All the John Feliciano move means to me is that whoever they draft at center has to be able to go day one, and that's what sucks. But if it were him or Ben Bredesen going day one, I'm going to feel shitty about it one way or another.
Well, maybe that you're right about kind of like unzipping your fly and exposing yourself. Maybe, that sounds like if you need someone you think is going to have to start on day one, or, that means they're drafting one. and probably pretty high. So, this is a team that does a pretty good job with smoke screens and a pretty good job with end arounds with where you're thinking,
Reach
but
arounds.
well, that sounds like the team in Philly. But um, I think in this, and something, not everything has to be 4D chess. I mean, I don't think there's 30 other draft boards out there worrying about what the Giants are doing at 25. So yeah, I think you get the guy you want, the highest ranked guy on your board. But if it's obvious, it's obvious. You have a player in need. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that that's one of the biggest needs the Giants have right now is center.
So we agree that Joe Schoen is blowing smoke when he says he's comfortable with Ben Bredesen.
Oh, smoke right out of his ass. Right out of his ass.
Um. All right. So when I say that, obviously we agree center is the biggest need on this line. Do you think that there's anything? Does anything else concern you about the offensive line? I just want to hear your thoughts on, what are you worried about? What would you like to upgrade? Where do you feel comfortable? Just give me your general thoughts.
I mean, again, the worry, like 2 years ago, I was frightened. I was very frightened about this offensive line. My worry was depth. My worry was, anybody goes down, what are we going to do? It's going to be, we get to a point where we have to, you know, hike, take a knee on third down or run quarterback, runs up the middle. I think this line is, when you have two anchors like that on the end, and I'm going to make the leap that Evan Neal becomes, he may not be the equivalent of Andrew Thomas on the right side, but a solid start or somebody I can pencil in for the next, 7 or 8 years. Um, the conventional wisdom is, oh, we need weapons for Daniel Jones. We need a receiver, but something, if this line isn't solidified, it doesn't matter who your weapons are. I think center should be a priority. I've been thinking about this a lot since the season ended, especially after Feliciano left. I think a center changes. I think getting a center, even if he struggles in the beginning, I think you can put other guys in more natural positions at guard. So I like how we're developing this line. It's not a complete process, and it may not even be this year. But I think drafting a center, a good center, if you get a good center, you have three guys on this line who could be, potential Pro Bowlers, and be one of the best lines in the league. And that way, then you don't have to allocate as much resources for everything else, and you can worry about guard. So I'm feeling good about this line. I'll feel a lot better after the draft and see where we are. But I'm not in panic mode about this offensive line like I have been for the last several years.
So given that you think of, all right, so I mean, I'm with you there. The way I look at the line is, and I look at the draft is this is investing in the future. So you reach a certain point where you're not drafting for this year. You're not picking players for this year's production. You are picking players for next year's production.
And I'm also thinking with that I don't think this team's a Super Bowl team yet. I would not make any short-term moves, either free agency or in the draft, to try to get it over the hump this year. I think we are still continuing that build, so I don't want to deviate from that. If drafting a center means he struggles this year and it might slow down something for this year, I'm okay with that because I know the dividends for 2024 and beyond when the real window of this team opens. So I'm completely on board and okay with that. That's why you didn't hear me bitching about Evan Neal, him struggling, because that's part of this process.
So when you keep that in mind, I don't think very much of Marcus McKethan personally. I think that he didn't get a first year, so you're getting a first year post injury now. You're not looking at Marcus McKethan doing much for you for probably 3 total years, which sucks. Josh Azudu, I think, was raw to begin with, and his development is a little bit slow because they're moving him all over the place. Ben Bredesen's not here for the long haul. Shane Lemieux is half out the door already. I would not hate them doubling up on the interior O-line.
What about Matt Pert? Were you giving up on him?
No, but he's a tackle. I'm not worried about the outside as much. And no, I don't think he moves inside either.
Yep, that was my question.
Well, I mean, I think, theoretically, I think he could, given his size, whatever. But, in general, I think the demeanor of him just like, just like not punching right away or just like not having that nasty in him is going to be worse on the inside than on the outside, I think.
What about Shane Lemieux?
I actually really do like Shane Lemieux, but dude can't stay healthy, can't seem to win a starting spot. What am I supposed to think? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter what I saw in him at Oregon or 3 years ago with this Giants team for a brief period at one point, does it? If he can't win the coaches over the way, other players have last year, then I have to assume that there's still struggles there. And I mean,
Yeah.
understandably, because he keeps missing time. He missed like a whole year.
Yeah. I think it's not a luxury you can't afford to wait around for, but he's
It's not
just
really
a guy
even a luxury. I mean,
that wasn't the right word. It's more like well, it's nice when it works. It's like I don't know. I can't even think of an analogy. I had one in my mind, but it was not going to work. So
there you go.
just one of those guys that just if he shows up, you leave a plate at the table, and if he comes for dinner, great, and if not, oh well.
Yeah. I wouldn't hate them doubling up on the interior O-line this year. I tweeted out today. I actually had a dream. I was like half asleep and like half still working. That the Giants drafted a corner in the first round, and then they went out and they got guard Cody Mock from North Dakota State in the second round, and then center Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas in the third round.
This is all in your dream?
Well, I was kind of like doing work and like watching film at the time and like sort of like just tipping over, Yeah. So it was like a pseudo dream, but yeah, and it was awesome.
I got to talk to the girlfriend Grump, and we have to have a heart to heart because you need some help.
Oh, during this period, I mean, the sleep I get is like not even quality sleep, so explains me constantly rubbing my eyes and whatever. But so when we talk about these guys, there is one guy that I think is a day one center, is John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota. I think he's really good. That being said, let's just say it's draft day, April 27th or whatever it is, 28th, I think maybe. Pick 25, Giants are on the board, and they walk away with center John Michael Schmitz. Not a super sexy pick. How does the Cranky fan feel?
I feel very good about it because for the reasons I just said, that it doesn't matter what you have, what weapons you have for Daniel Jones, and also it doesn't matter if you have Saquon Barkley or Barkley the dog from Sesame Street as your running back. If you don't have a good offensive line, an offensive line that has studs, this team is going to struggle. So you can get wide receivers in this draft. You can get weapons in this draft. You'll be able to get wide receivers if you had to, even on undrafted free agents, cut down day. There's other ways to do it. You're not going to get potential elite talent on the line any other way than this for relatively inexpensive for the first few years. So unsexy, sure, but building a sustainable team for success that will build into a Super Bowl requires a lot of unsexy things to do. I mean, you have two unsexy podcast hosts covering them. An unsexy draft pick probably goes a lot longer than something just to grab headlines. Let the Jets grab their headlines. We're here to win and to build.
I would not hate it. I do think it's more likely they pick a day two guy. Whether that's second round, third round, I have no idea. But
do we think he's even going to be around at 25? I mean, who else drafted?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Around that area is looking for, specifically has a big center need.
I'm not even sure he goes in the first round. I mean, it's pretty rare that a center does. They usually have to be incredible to go.
Let me ask you this then.
Okay.
Would you consider trading down a few spots to try to get him?
Always. This team is still rebuilding, so trading down and obtaining more picks. I mean, they traded one pick away already. I mean, they got something for it. And in my opinion, you have a proven veteran for a third-round pick, which normally your third-round pick is like a shot in the dark. You kind of hope,
I think we're going to see a lot of wheeling and dealing.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I did watch draft day again on the plane coming back last night back to New York.
I had pancakes on Sunday.
So, I mean, we could see and a lot of unsexy, trades, like trading down two spots, not, jumping up into,
I agree.
the eighth pick or something. But you might see a lot of maneuvering for this year and for next year too. I mean, don't be surprised if we come out of this draft where we have more draft picks for 2024 than we started the day with too.
Amen. You are correct. I would
Thank you.
not be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
It is very clear to me that Joe Schoen values having as many picks in the draft as possible for multiple different reasons, for picking players or for wheeling and dealing.
And I also think that they're not just going to be wheeling dealing just to wheeling dealing. I think it's all going to be within the context of guys on their board and who are available, may still be available, who they get intel it may be, higher on their board than other teams. All those different things. So be prepared. I know, we've been waiting for 5 months to say with the 25th pick the Giants select. Don't get all bent if we trade and do like a New England, what they normally do, and you always see.
And not picking the first round. I'm going to New York for this draft again. I'm gonna be pissed if if I show up at the Talking Giants headquarters and I'm just kind of eating pizza the whole time.
Well, I would feel awful for you about that, but we'll reimburse you for your training.
I'd get over it. The pizza makes up for it on its own.
Is that where you're gonna be? By the way, you're gonna be doing Talking Giants? Is that
Yep.
Is that exclusive?
I mean, I don't know if it's been said yet. I think they tweeted it. But yeah, I will be there all 3 days. The first 2 days, I believe, will be with Robert Schmitz, who does just the Windy City Gridiron, I think it's called. Covers the Chicago Bears. See him at the Senior Bowl every year. Great dude, really, really intelligent. So yeah, I'll be there for that. But on the day one draft, that John Michael Schmitz is like the only non-tackle I could see going in the first round, and we've already discussed that tackles are not really going to be within the crosshairs of this organization. But day two guys, and I do want to talk about this.
One more point before we move on for that. Would you trade up for him?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think I would trade up on day one for anybody.
Okay.
But day two guys, we'll start with just centers for right now. And I think that this group of dudes, I don't know how they're going to land, but to me, the way I look at them, they're all very, very close. Similar to the way I view the wide receivers on day two. They're all very similar with like some attributes here that are better, some that are better here. But Oluwatimi from Michigan, Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas, Joe Tittman from Wisconsin, Luke Whippler from Ohio State, Steve Avila from TCU, all five of those guys I could see going on day two, and I'd be pretty happy with any of them.
Let's talk about the guy from Wisconsin for a minute, because I've been watching a lot of film on Wisconsin because their quarterback transferred to Florida this year. So their offensive line kind of sucked, right? To be honest, how did he stand out?
So, I mean,
a line that was not very good.
He's big, for starters.
Okay.
He is, sorry, I'm pulling up my actual write-up on him while we're talking here. He's very large, and that usually goes a long way. I believe he's pretty athletic as well. I didn't think he looked bad. I mean, he wasn't my favorite. I know people had him as their first, guy off the board, second guy after John Michael Schmitz. I think he moves really well, and that usually gets people's attention. For a 6'6" guy, 313 is pretty light.
Yeah. But is it a frame? Looks like he can put on some bulk and not impact anything.
But also 6'6" is really tall for a center, in my opinion. I think that can probably get in the way for him. But for me, really, the biggest thing with him is the same thing I feel for a lot of guys that are that tall. It's very, very hard to get a nice pad level and anchor correctly because you're just so fucking tall. Like, you have to get your pads at least on par with the defender in front of you. Probably better to be lower. And most of those defenders are not 6'6" coming at the middle. They're shorter than that, and they're already lower to the ground.
They're bowling balls.
And you know what, man? I meant to say this earlier. Fuck the combine. I don't understand people that would rather look at combine stuff than look at film. And this is partially biased on what I enjoy, and I truly don't enjoy watching the combine. But look, I'm going through this stuff, and I do pull specific combine drills that I think are important. And, like, literally every single O-lineman didn't do the bench press. It's, like, the only thing I want to see them do. So few of them do. What the fuck is the point? They all ran the 40.
The combine for me always has been kind of validate physical attributes that you might have saw in film, and you're like, is he really that fast? Or, just like, is he really that strong? But to me, as much as you can replicate what he's been doing in real life is what you evaluate on. And to me, that's it's not combine, it's not Senior Bowl practice, it's not even Senior Bowl game. It's when you're playing under the lights, when games matter, when your intensity is at 12, you prepared mentally and physically for a game. That's what I'm evaluating for. So
Me
I agree
too.
with you
Yeah,
100%.
it's so frustrating because so few of them did it, and a lot of them look weak. They look weaker than the defensive linemen that they're blocking. Maybe it's just me. Maybe old man, Grump over here. But it looks like the NCAA is not churning out O linemen the way they used to, and I mean that. Like it's almost like they know their bench press is going to be bad.
Let me ask you a reason behind that. Is that because just offenses in college are different than the NFL, and it's more?
I think they're prioritizing movement, probably.
Yeah, like the Gators have last year under Napier have kind of gone back to like a
Sure. Yeah.
like an offensive line and a blocking scheme like what the Broncos did back for how many years under Shanahan.
Yeah, Shanahan.
Yeah, and sort of like what the 49ers are doing, which is almost like a throwbacky way, but it's something that had to be noted. Like this is different than they are, and they had a talented offensive line, but most of these offenses are run with an incredibly talented athletic quarterback who makes things happen out of nothing, and it's not just it's getting away from the NFL game is starting to catch up a little to what the college game is.
Yeah.
Maybe down the road you'll see a different ideal of what an offensive lineman should be, but I definitely think that college coaches, offensive line coaches, offensive coordinators, head coaches aren't as concerned about getting somebody ready for the NFL as they are about
No, but that's not really my point. My point is
preparing for what their kind of offense they're running. So it's different.
I do think it's trending in a bad direction for offenses in college, though, because they're churning out college defensive linemen just the same as they always did. I mean, Jalen Carter might be the best defensive lineman I've seen in quite a while. So, it's just weird to me. I think it's dumb. And for me, with Tittman, you see a lot of the movement skills with him, and that's where I think he gets a lot of hype or whatever. But also, like, I'm not shitting on him. He's just not my favorite. My favorite, who is also not the best in this class, different things, but my favorite is probably Ricky Stromberg from Arkansas. I did not expect to like him that much, but he has a lot of things that I think you can't teach, and that's that nasty streak in him. He plays through the whistle to the end. I mean, that stuff is just, when it's there, all you got to do is fix the other stuff. Little bit, like,
Technique is easy to...
But yeah, when you want to be good, which is where that, like, competitive edge and that nastiness comes from, the teaching technique and stuff usually comes easy because these guys are generally hard work. They want to be good more than the other guy across from them. Obviously, all these guys at the elite college level in the draft, they all want to be good, but there are that other class of guys. Yeah, exactly. And I really love the way he plays. I think he's nasty. He's mean. I mean, to me, that is dirt bag material, right? Which is what Bobby Johnson likes to call his O-linemen, dirt bags. So I love that. But, any of those guys I listed for day 2, I know the Giants, Notre Dame, Patterson is one that, every Giants fan likes because he's Notre Dame. And I know the Giants talked to Penn State guy Juice Scruggs, but to me, those are day 3 guys. But day 2 guards, I'm just going to list my favorite guys in the order I have them right now. But it's Cody Mauch, Osiris Torrance, Ekiyor Jr., Ryan Hayes from Michigan. I know he was a tackle there, but I think he's going to be a guard at the next level. And UCLA's John Gaines the second. I like all those guys on day 2. I would take any of them. Cody Mauch is probably my favorite for a lot of the same reasons Ricky Stromberg, which is, I think, feeds back to that dream I had. And Cody Mauch is like such a lovable guy. He's toothless in the front, looks like a hockey player, and dude, moves so fluidly. Really move. And I think, honestly, my opinion is Cody Mauch could be a starting right guard right away with the flexibility to kick out the right tackle. He is a very good lateral I mean, his footwork is kind of garbage and it needs work in space, but it's really fast. He cuts off speed rushers before they get there, which is like half the battle. And from there, cleaning up his base while he's doing the lateral step. He gets really skinny and gets off balance and stuff like that. You can fix that. But the athleticism and stuff that he has, in addition to that mean streak that he also has, it's pretty rare. I really like him. But I want to know, when you only got 1 year of Osiris Torrance, but was that enough for you to be like, I want this dude in blue bad?
He would be jersey worthy for me. And for me to wear a jersey of an offensive lineman is really saying something. Again, not a sexy jersey to buy, but obviously, the Gator connection. But he came in, he played at Louisiana, and when Napier came over, that was one of the first guys to transfer over, and it was like, okay, when you're going from the Sun Belt to the SEC, that's a huge leap. But from day one, the reports coming out of camp were like, wow, this guy is a mauler. This guy is a man among boys. And you're saying that about the SEC is something. And he was fantastic. I think he missed one game for injury over the season, but he anchored a pretty solid offensive line, a really good running game. Again, I said this a few times on the show, that was helped by the mobility of Anthony Richardson, but universally was thought of as like one of the best linemen in the SEC, the best guard in the SEC. So I would be very excited, because again, I saw someone who made a leap. I don't know if exponentially it's the same going from the Sun Belt to the SEC as the SEC the NFL, but if he grades out like the way he adapted to a much bigger quality of game that quickly, I think we'll be fine for a long time if we drafted him.
I think my biggest
also one other thing is there were some rumblings going around that he might be able to cross train to be center too. So I don't know if I would draft him and move him to center to start at center, but having that in your tool chest is not a bad thing either.
No, not at all. And like I said, same thing with Cody Mauch. Having that ability to kick out and play tackle if needed is certainly a plus. I know we'd like to talk about like the center guard kind of transfer, but I mean, personally, I'd rather have the center just be the goddamn center and be the good center. A guard that can kick out and play tackle if Evan Neal gets hurt, on the other hand, is a totally different story.
He did not give up one sack in his entire career at Louisiana or at Florida.
That's pretty impressive. Oh, I mean, Louisiana's not throwing a bunch, but Florida certainly did.
Right. And again, part of that again, the Richardson factor of being mobile and not setting himself up to sack, but still, the difference between he just got burnt by this guy, and go watch the film and show me a couple examples where that happened, and I'll sit here and wait for that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a while.
I guess my biggest question with him, and where I think the hang up might be with the Giants, is him in space. And you've certainly watched more Florida than I did. So, I mean, is that something that they did a whole lot of, is like getting him out and pulling situations, or, up to the second level that you remember? Did he ever look clunky out on the move to you?
Nothing that was, again, I am not the line guy. I'm not the film guy as much as you are, but nothing stood out to me as just like, that didn't work, or he I mean, he pulled a lot, he did all the things, but nothing that stood out to me as like, that is something he should take out of his tool chest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, other than that, I mean, to his credit, he at least did the bench press at the combine. 23 reps is pretty weak. Not what I would like to see. I'd like to see at least 26, but what are we talking about? Three reps here? It's not the worst. But yeah, I mean, it's Osiris Torrance. He's second ranked guard for me. I would certainly like him here. I liked all those guys, those day two guys I mentioned. I'd be happy with any of them being here. Somebody suggested John Gaines to me from UCLA. Was not on my radar. Definitely liked him. Put him on my day two as is big deal for a guard. I don't want to talk running backs next week. Just sidebar. I have a feeling Joe Schoen is going to select one, but even if he does, it's like so. I don't know. There's like a million running backs every year that are draft worthy, right?
Well, also, it's also kind of like until we have final resolution with Saquon Barkley, it's almost kind of like a anything they do to that point, it almost seems secondary, and
Exactly. He's going to be back
plans
up
can
to
change.
everything. And they
Sure.
re-signed Matt Breida too. So like
Yeah.
the need for it isn't. I just feel like I know it in my bones that we're going to be walking away at some point with a running back, not undrafted free agent, like an actual investment of some kind. And I don't want to talk that next week. I'd rather flip to the defense if that is cool with you.
Hey man, it's cool with me.
All right. So next week we'll talk corners. I guess that's the
Ooh.
last super duper important. Um,
I would say so. I
yeah.
would say, yeah, sexy and important. We'll get to the sexy for that.
And that'll be same damn place, same damn time. Next Tuesday morning at 9:30 on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, etc. This show is always available in all those spots. Please be sure to subscribe and tell a friend. And follow
Yeah.
us on Twitter at football_grump, at the Cranky Fan, at Just Giants Pod. We love
And
making friends.
to all you UConn fans out there, congratulations. There's 30 seconds left, and you're gonna win a national championship again. Who had that on their bingo cards in 3 weeks ago? Not I, says the guy who picked Purdue. So,
Whoops.
so congrats. I know there's some UConn, some Huskies in the audience. Being so close to Connecticut. So congrats.
Probably, yeah.
Huh?
Congratulations, guys, and we will, barring some fantastic news of Deion Jones or anything else, I think you'll be seeing us next
Or
week.
or we're killing us, one of the two. So hopefully that won't happen either.
All right. We'll catch you guys next time. Go
Go
Giants.
Giants.